Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome into the video. So in this video, I'm going to be going over 3 stock trade ideas that I'm watching and looking to make this upcoming week. This past week in the market was a very volatile one. We saw some huge dips on a lot of names. With that volatility always becomes trading opportunities and some very nice discounts on some specific stocks. So in this video, I'll be going over 3 of my favorite opportunities right now in the market. And a quick reminder, I'm of course not a financial advisor. This is not advice. I'm sharing the moves that I'm personally looking to make. That does not mean that you should always have your own plan before going in on any trades. Alright, so getting into the first one. The first stock I'm liking a lot right now is Coinbase stock, ticker symbol COIN. So Coinbase stock is currently sitting at $303 per share with a market cap right at $79 billion. It recently went on a big run from the low 200s, hitting a high near $360 per share, and now has pulled back right around that $300 range, making it a very attractive opportunity for some of the catalysts that are coming up. The huge opportunity and catalyst for Coinbase stock is the NFT marketplace that they're working on launching. The NFT marketplace is expected to launch before the end of 2021, and this can be a massive catalyst for Coinbase stock. The stock price has a chance to launch right around with it. The CEO of Coinbase has came out and said that NFTs could be as big or bigger than all of crypto on Coinbase. That's a bold statement right there from the CEO. And the platform is going to be more than just a place where you buy and sell NFTs. Coinbase is adding social features that open up new avenues for conversation and discovery. And they're also going to have a big focus on growing the creator community, which is just going to give that much more exposure to the Coinbase business. I'm not a big NFT guy myself, but numbers don't lie. Recently, OpenSea, which is the major platform where you can buy and sell NFTs as of right now, which in my opinion, Coinbase would take over that #1 spot pretty easily. They recently hit $10 billion in total volume just 3 months after reaching the $1 billion mark. Pretty crazy numbers right there for people buying and selling JPEGs. And the chart and technical setup is setting up pretty nicely as well. It's retesting the breakout level right at $300 per share as new support. It also has strong support levels below at $280 per share and $260 per share. And another visual where you can see where it broke out of that zone and it's retesting that previous breakout zone as new support, with $300 per share and $280 acting as those strong levels. And one thing to keep in mind, Coinbase stock moves a lot with the crypto market, so we see Bitcoin and Ethereum dumping. There's a good chance that Coinbase stock is going to see downside along with them. So let's say a scenario that could happen in the coming weeks where Bitcoin drops to the mid $40,000 level. In that scenario, in my opinion, it'd be likely for Coinbase stock to be around 260 to 280 or so, and that'd be a very attractive buying opportunity in my opinion with the upcoming NFT marketplace catalyst launch. I think if the launch is successful and they hit the numbers that everybody's expecting them to hit with the user growth, I think there's a very realistic possibility that Coinbase stock bounces around that range and goes on to hit new recent highs above that $360 per share level. Now another trading idea for this is you could use this as a play for a run up to the catalyst date, which is the NFT marketplace launch. Once they announce the official launch date, which we should be getting any time now, that is going to pop the stock in a big way in my personal opinion. There's a possibility of a 5 to 10% move or so, and we could run up towards the date of the launch as investors get excited and more hype build behind this Coinbase NFT marketplace launch. So play this trade however you think is best. My personal plan is in the next 1 to 2 weeks to establish a position, preferably on a larger dip than this. If we do get the crypto market to drop a little bit more like it has been, I do think we could get Coinbase on a slightly bigger discount than currently, and I'd be looking to add shares for a run up towards when they announce the marketplace launch. Maybe hold through the launch, maybe not, all depends on price action, and we'll play the trade by ear, but I do think this is a great opportunity as hype has died down a little bit on the stock ever since the original announcement. We've seen a recent 20% pullback, bringing up an attractive opportunity, and when that real catalyst hits, the stock could take off and hit new highs above 360 in my personal opinion. Now getting to the next trade idea, this is Teladoc stock, ticker symbol TDOC. Teladoc is a heavily beat down stock, hitting highs above $300 this past year. As of right now, it's sitting right at $109 per share. Current market cap about $17.5 billion. For those who aren't familiar with Teladoc, they're one of the leaders in telehealth. Their business exploded in the past couple years with COVID acting as a catalyst, and this stock is just getting to very attractive prices to be a buyer here for a mid/longer term swing trade. So in August of 2020, Teladoc announced a huge acquisition that they were going to buy Livongo for $18.5 billion in cash and stock, which Livongo is a company with huge growth that provides diabetes monitoring and remote monitoring. This article is back from 2020, but the combination of the 2 largest publicly traded virtual care companies will create a health technology giant just as the demand for virtual care soars. So they bought out Livongo for $18.5 billion. The current market cap of both of these companies combined is about $17 billion, so that's $1.5 billion less than they even made the acquisition for, not even including the Teladoc part of the business. So that's a pretty substantial valuation swing in the past year. You can also take a look down at the ratios and multiples that the stock is trading at. Historically, it's trading at by far the cheapest price to sales, price to book, EV to revenue, and EV to EBITDA multiples that the stock is traded at. And the stock right now has simply been out of favor for the past half year with continuous selling. Now, one of the biggest believers in this stock is ARK Invest, with their most popular fund, ARK Innovation, ARKK. Teladoc is their fourth largest holding. It makes up about 6% of the weight of their ETF. And ARK owns almost 20% of Teladoc shares outstanding. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, in my opinion, this is one of the largest reasons that Teladoc stock has been hit so hard. The ARK ETFs are some of the easiest targets for short sellers. Why? Well, these large institutions, large hedge funds, can target these ARK ETFs with shorts, therefore driving down the price. And guess who invests in these ARK ETFs? It's almost purely retail investors. Who's going to sell out when these ARK ETFs go down? Of course, retail investors. So it all just turns into a domino effect. When these ARK ETFs go down caused by a lot of these shorts, retail investors take their money out of ARK funds. Therefore, ARK has to sell some of the shares that they hold in those companies since their investors are taking money out of it, therefore causing those specific stocks to go down. And it's just a domino effect, easy to target and manipulate from shorts. So that's a big reason why we've seen a stock like Teladoc get hit so hard this past year. Recently, an ETF called SARK launched, which is an ETF that you can buy that inverses ARK's funds, essentially like a short. And recently, the short interest in ARKK increased to a record of 17.3% of its shares, which is an absolutely massive amount for an ETF to be shorted with. The majority of other ETFs have less than a 1% short float. So taking a look at the technical setup of Teladoc, we can see the stock is heavily beat down. I highlighted on the left side of the chart those candles starting in mid-February all the way to the end of March, right where COVID was starting. I highlighted that to illustrate that Teladoc stock is essentially sitting right at pre-COVID levels. And the telehealth sector has obviously grown so much in that time period. And this large of a dip is becoming a very, very attractive buying opportunity in my opinion. We can also see that it's testing that key psychological support level at $100 per share. It bounced off that level so far when tested. And if it was to drop some more, which more downside is a likely possibility in the short term, as we'll talk about in a little bit. But if it was to break below $100, the next strong support levels are at $90 per share and $86 per share. That level is very strong support. I would personally would be shocked if it dropped below that, and I would be a heavy buyer in that range if it was to get there. And one more visual of support is also sitting right at the 78.6% retracement of the swing low from 2018 all the way to the swing high, all-time highs at $308 per share. So that's just another visual of a level that could act as some support. So this past week I started averaging in, slowly buying shares of Teladoc stock, and I plan to do that for the next couple months. Right now, I do think more downside is likely in the short term. As we're nearing the end of the year, most people who are in Teladoc stock are down on their position. What happens with that? That people start taking tax losses for their tax write-offs. And as we get closer to the end of the year, that's likely going to pick up speed as people take their loss before the end of the year. So I'm personally prepared for Teladoc to go down to that $90 level. That would be the level where I personally look to add heavy. For now, it is holding strong support around $100 per share. It is a beneficiary off the recent COVID strain. Not really sure what to think about that yet, but it is a positive catalyst for the company if those cases do continue to rise. Obviously, we don't want that to happen, but you gotta do what you gotta do to make money in the stock market, right? But tax selling is illustrated really well on the Friday gap up in the stock. So in the pre-market, Teladoc stock was up about 10%, hitting a high close to $120 per share, even off the COVID news, which is a big positive for Teladoc stock. This stock got sold down on the pop and closed the day only up 3%. So that just kind of illustrates that there's a lot of sellers still looking to get out on this stock, and pops in the short term, bounces, likely gets sold back down. And for that reason, it is likely that Teladoc does see more downside in the short term. But of course, anything can happen. If it is going to make a reversal, the biggest level to reclaim back above is 120, acting as key resistance for now. If Teladoc can get above that, that is where it can start the reversal playing out. Personally, I'll be looking to accumulate this stock slowly over the next few months. And this is one that I think will outperform in a big way in 2022. From these current levels, I think there's easy upside to $150 plus per share as a longer term swing. Alright, so getting into the next one, this is a sector that I've talked a lot about recently, and that is the US multi-state operating cannabis companies, the US MSOs, and this is the ETF that tracks this sector, ticker symbol MSOS. So this is a sector that's been hit very hard, down over 50% since the February high. There are some huge upcoming catalysts, specifically this coming week, that if this plays out, the sector is going to absolutely take off. I've talked about this a bunch in recent videos, so I'm not going to go all the way through it. Essentially, there's a bill called the Safe Banking Bill, and that right now is proposed to be in the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. And this is a huge catalyst for any of these US cannabis companies. This would give these companies access to major financial institutions, the big banks. Currently, people have to pay cash at these dispensaries. This law would change that if it passes. And there's a bunch more stuff I could go into in this video. I'm not going to for time's sake, but these companies are valued so cheaply. Just taking a look at this visual. And the reason that these companies are so cheap is because they trade over the counter on the OTC exchange. The majority of institutions do not touch the OTC market, so these companies have very low institutional ownership, a lot of these below 5% institutional ownership, and they're pretty much owned mostly by retail investors. So they're discounted heavily to companies like Canadian cannabis companies, Tilray, Canopy Growth, for example. If the Safe Banking Act was to pass, that would be the next step for these American cannabis companies for an uplisting up to the New York Stock Exchange, up to the NASDAQ, which would give them all that institutional interest. If they're valued like Canadian cannabis companies are valued, the American cannabis companies are more profitable, they're growing faster, and they have a larger growth horizon. If they get uplisted, even if they just trade on par with these Canadian companies, these will easily 2x to 3x from these current levels, in my personal opinion. So in order for safe banking to pass, the Senate has to agree upon it to pass in the NDAA. The vote is happening on this Monday, and so this article says consideration of the NDAA will resume on Monday at 3 p.m. I'll let you guys pause the video if you're interested in reading the rest of that for more specifics on how the vote's going to happen and stuff like that. But there's two scenarios, and from what I've seen, it's about a 50-50 chance whether safe banking is included in the NDAA or is taken out of the NDAA. So if the SAFE Act is removed from the NDAA, this is what this article says, and I agree with that 100%. There will likely be tax loss selling into year end, and these MSO stocks will most likely see more downside until 2022. Now, if the Safe Banking Act does pass, these stocks are going to absolutely take off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 20% plus move on the day that we get news that it did pass. And all these stocks in this sector right now are a coiled spring, ready to take off if we do get the safe banking news. If not, they're likely going to sell down some more. So what's my personal plan on this? Obviously, I have that long-term portfolio that I've shown multiple times on the channel. I plan on holding those until all the catalyst plays out. The Safe Banking Act passing, uplisting, everything else. But if Safe Banking Act was to pass this upcoming week, which is a possibility, my plan is to be aggressively buying MSOS call options about 1 to 2 months out or so, as I think we could see a pretty big move towards $40 per share on MSOS. Recently, there was a lot of excitement about the Nancy Mace bill, which was a Republican-backed cannabis bill called the States Reform Act. There was a lot of excitement, and on the day that they had the press conference for that act, that turned into a sell the news event for the whole sector. And since then, after that big run, it's taken out almost all of the gains. But one thing would be different if Safe Banking Act was to pass. There's pretty much no chance that would be a sell the news event, since it's a real law passing and not just a press conference. And the biggest technical level for MSOS to break above to see a breakout is $33.50. If it can make a move above that level, I think 40 would come very, very quickly. And it does have a real chance to pass this time around. Multiple times in the past, the Senate has rejected this bill as a standalone bill. Right now it's being included in the NDAA so they could pass it along with it, not just as a standalone bill. So that itself does help the odds. And this bill has bipartisan support. There are now 41 senators signed onto the bill. Last week there was news that multiple senators are urging their Senate colleagues to help pass this bill. Colorado senators are pushing for this act to be included in the NDAA. So there's a ton of potential for this catalyst to play out. If it does, I'll be executing those trades, buying those calls. If not, I'm just staying away for any short-term trades with this sector. Alright, so those are 3 of my top trading ideas that I'm personally watching and looking to make this upcoming week. If I did help you out, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe button. I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. If you agree or disagree on any stocks I talked about in the video, let me know down below in the comments. If you are interested in joining the private Discord chat, the link is down below. You get buy and sell alerts anytime I buy or sell anything in the market. You get a nightly watch list every single night for trading ideas for the next day. I'm there to answer any questions you have, and you have full access to my short-term and long-term portfolios. So if you are interested in that, that's the first link down in the description. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Make sure to trade smart this week, and let's get rich.